Ion Khan's return to the mountain village of Karang is not fueled by nostalgia but by the ache of unfinished family history. The 30-year-old urban archaeologist, accustomed to air-conditioned archives and digital databases, steps off the rust-streaked bus and inhales pine-scented air that feels both alien and oddly familiar. Karang, perched on jagged ridges that vanish each evening into saffron mist, has dwindled to a few dozen stone cottages, their slate roofs stitched with moss after decades of neglect. Yet beneath that sleepy surface hums a legend so persistent it seems woven into every breeze. Centuries ago, a tribal king spirited his realm's riches into a cave and sealed it with curses strong enough to frighten the boldest raiders. Ion intends only a brief visit to settle his late grandfather's affairs, but on his first night he discovers a dust-cloaked steamer trunk in the attic. Inside lies an oil-stained leather journal, its brittle pages crammed with sketches of cliff faces, fragments of forgotten dialects, and a repeating sun disk bisected by a serpent. The handwriting is unmistakably his grandfather's. It dawns on Ion that the old man, a retired schoolmaster whom villagers once dismissed as fanciful, spent years secretly chasing the cave's location. Each page pulses with urgency, as though urging Ion to finish what was begun. Morning finds him at the village library, a single-room shack where he meets Mira Dar, the local historian and unofficial guide. Mira's curiosity equals Ion. She grew up memorizing the same fireside tales, yet never possessed tangible proof. When Ion reveals the journal, her eyes reflect the gleam of someone who has waited a lifetime for legitimacy. They spread the brittle maps across a wooden table, translating glyphs that blend Sanskrit roots with an extinct tribal tongue. Lines once thought decorative reveal themselves as contour markers hiding a trail that skirts the infamous Widow's Cliffs. That their collaboration draws attention. At the tea stall, Ion notices a gaunt stranger, later identified as Rafiq Alam, a treasure broker infamous across border markets, listening too closely to their animated debate. Rumors travel faster than mountain streams in Karang. By dusk, whispers of the schoolmaster's map swirl through verandas, and Ion senses the legend's seductive power quickly mutating into danger. That evening, a violent monsoon storm lashes the village. Thunder cracks open the valley, toppling an ancient cedar near the falls. At dawn, villagers discover that the uprooted tree has dislodged boulders, exposing the curved apex of a stone marker veined with lichen, the very sun and serpent emblem inked throughout the journal. Nature, it seems, has conspired to validate their research. Standing at the waterfall's edge, spray wetting their faces, Ion and Mira match the marker's orientation to a compass sketch in the journal. Two intersecting bearings form an arrow pointing toward a narrow, overgrown ridge, long avoided because of rockslides. The realization hits them: this is the forgotten ascent. The king's spine, described in oral chants but never plotted on modern maps. Before they can celebrate, Ion discovers fresh boot prints in the mud, too large for Mira's feet, too recent to precede the storm. Someone else, likely Rafiq, has already recognized the significance of the fallen cedar. The race, once leisurely and academic, turns perilous. With urgency sharpening their resolve, Ion secures climbing gear, and Mira gathers herbal salves and rope talismans blessed by the village shaman. They exchange a brief, charged glance, part exhilaration, part fear. As mist rolls off the ridge like a living veil, they step onto the forgotten trail, acutely aware that each footfall is rewriting a legend. An awakening force is human and ancient, determined to guard or seize the buried treasure. Ion and Mira begin their ascent up the narrow ridge known as the King's Spine, a path treacherous with loose stones, crumbling edges, and decades of neglect. The climb is grueling, worse than they imagined. Jagged rocks scrape their hands, and mist clouds their vision. Yet with each step, their confidence grows. The clues in Ion's grandfather's journal are proving accurate. Ancient carvings, barely visible beneath vines and moss, mark their path: spirals, sun disks, and snake-like lines etched into stone. The legend is becoming real. As they push forward, the weather turns. A sudden fog rolls in, swallowing the landscape. Mira, whose instincts are finely tuned to the mountains, warns Ion to move carefully. These trails are unstable. Moments later, the earth shifts. Ion slips, nearly plunging down a sheer drop. Mira lunges, grabbing his hand just in time. Heart pounding, Ion stares into the abyss below. The danger is no longer theoretical. The mountain is alive, and it doesn't welcome intruders. After hours of slow, cautious climbing, they finally spot a strange formation ahead, a jagged outcropping shaped like a serpent's mouth. The entrance to the cave. They approach with reverence and caution. Mira lights a torch, and together they step inside. The air grows cold, walls glisten with moisture, and the cave opens into a vast chamber with high ceilings and echoing silence. Strange symbols and handprints adorn the stone walls, testament to the ancient hands that once walked these halls. Ion finds another marker matching the journal's drawings. They follow the passage deeper, guided by cryptic instructions left by his grandfather and clues embedded in the carvings. Then they find signs. They are not alone. Footprints, recent, deep in the dust. Someone else has entered, likely Rafik, the smuggler who had been watching them in the village. A rush of fear passes between them. They have to move fast. They enter a narrow tunnel, which opens into a chamber filled with trapped stone tiles, with pressure plates, swinging blades hidden in the walls, and pits covered by rotted wood. It's a deadly maze. The journal had mentioned some of these dangers, but not all. Ian realizes his grandfather must have turned back before reaching this point. He and Mira proceed slowly, testing each step, solving puzzles that seem designed, not just to protect treasure but to test character. In one chamber, they come across an altar with a riddle inscribed in ancient script. Mira deciphers it. Only those who walk in the light of truth may pass. Ion, recalling a story from his grandfather's notes, places a mirror to reflect sunlight from the torch flame into a small crevice. A stone door rumbles open, but their triumph is short-lived. Just beyond the next threshold, they are ambushed. Rafik, flanked by 2 hired men, steps from the shadows. He holds a flare and a pistol, his face gleaming with greed. He demands the journal. Ion tries to stall, but Rafik already knows they're close to the treasure. Rafik forces them ahead as unwilling guides. Ion keeps calm, mentally retracing the puzzles and dangers still to come. He knows the final chamber has one last test stand. He intends to use it to turn the tables. As they move forward, deeper into the ancient belly of the mountain, Ion and Mira exchange a quiet look. The treasure is within reach, but so is betrayal, danger, and a final puzzle that could cost them everything. Ion, Mira, and their captors inch deeper into the cave's final passage, where the air thickens with the scent of damp stone and something older, something sacred. Rafik holds the flare high, casting dancing shadows on walls carved with mysterious scenes, a great tribal king, a blazing sun, and a figure offering a golden disc to the heavens. The images seem to tell a story, part prophecy, part warning. They enter the final chamber, a vast cavern with an arched ceiling and a platform at its center. There, nestled within a stone pedestal, rests the treasure. Gold coins spilling from ancient urns, jeweled artifacts, and at the heart of it all, a circular stone medallion, its design identical to the sun serpent symbol from the journal. This is not just wealth, it's history, it's power, and it's protected. Rafik's eyes go wide with greed. He pushes Ion and Mira aside and steps onto the platform, reaching for the medallion. The moment his hand touches it, the cave responds. The ground rumbles. Stone doors begin to seal behind them. Carvings along the walls start to glow faintly. Ion realizes what's happening. The chamber is booby-trapped, but not in the traditional sense. It's not punishing greed, it's testing intention. A passage from his grandfather's journal flashes through Ion's mind. The treasure is not given to those who seek to own it, but to those who seek to protect it. Acting quickly, Ion yells for Rafik to stop, but the smuggler ignores him. A section of the platform collapses beneath one of Rafik's men, who disappears into darkness with a scream. Panic erupts. Ion drags Mira to a side alcove as the chamber begins to shake more violently. He remembers a puzzle carved near the entrance, an escape mechanism his grandfather had noted but never solved. He runs to the wall and pushes the right sequence of pressure points. Following the journal's final diagram, a hidden exit reveals itself, a narrow crawl space that leads out of the chamber. But Rafik refuses to leave without the treasure. In desperation, he grabs the medallion and instantly, the ceiling begins to crack. Rocks fall. The chamber starts collapsing. Ayan shouts again, "Drop it or die here." Rafik, clinging to the medallion, is struck by falling debris. Ion can't reach him in time. With the chamber coming down, he and Mira escape through the crawl space, just as the entire treasure room seals itself behind a wall of stone. Outside, they collapse on the ridge, covered in dirt, breathing hard. The sun breaks through the clouds, lighting up the valley below. Ion holds what remains of the medallion, just a broken fragment. Rafik dropped in the chaos. It's enough. Days later, they present the journal, the artifact fragment, and cave footage to local authorities and historians. The site is declared a protected cultural zone. Ion refuses any claim of ownership. Instead, he ensures the treasure's story and his grandfather's legacy are preserved for generations. Back in the village, a museum is established using funds from academic grants. Tourists, scholars, and tribal elders gather to honor the discovery, not as a conquest but recovered history. Ion places the journal in a glass case, beside the medallion fragment, beneath a plaque that reads, "Not found to be owned but remembered to be honored." As the mountain watches silently from above, the legend becomes history and the legacy lives on.